most of the human suffering comes from going round and round in the mind without finding out what I want to know or expressing what I need to say. We spend our lives complaining without having clear, what the fuck do I actually want? So instead of saying he's selfish and leaving it at that, how about I take my initiative to change the world and ask for what I want? Most people hide their truth for fear of losing the connection. But I think if you hide your truth, you lose yourself and you eventually also lose the connection.
Hello, Elia, and welcome to Beyond Ideas podcast.
Thank you.
Something that came to me during this meditation is to ask you, how do you feel in your body right now?
Feel a bit like dry in my mouth and a slight headache. Yeah, there's some sense of slight tension of, a new situation of being interviewed in a podcast or something like. And there's also the friendly like relaxation of knowing and liking you.
So why did I ask you this? Something that I learned in my journey and also in the past few days is how important to connect to our bodies, how important it is to be aware of what's happening in our bodies. And body sensations, many of the times, don't really have a judgment, don't really have a thought. And yeah, my curiosity is, why is it so important to be aware of our bodies beyond the stories?
Yeah, for me, maybe I could give some very like conceptual or philosophical answer, but to me, it's also very simple. That the more I'm aware of what's happening in my body, the less I'm thinking, and the less I'm going round and round in my head thinking, the more there's something like more intuitive, more like listening to my natural wisdom. It brings somehow relaxation or presence. So to me, it's like the easiest gateway to presence, to being really here now, away from all the stresses and worries of the mind, is to be aware of what's happening in my body.
Mm.
Yeah, and I notice I relax when I say that. Yeah, there's some like sigh of relief.
Yeah, some years ago, I didn't even know about the importance of becoming aware of my body.
Mm, mm,
And sometimes I think of my younger self when I'm making the podcast,
mm,
and I feel like it is like if there's someone there that is not even conscious or aware
mm,
or connected
mm,
to what's happening in their body,
mm,
they're missing on a great opportunity. And
mm,
also, what comes to me when I hear you, it's this concept of presence.
mm,
And sometimes I say that one doesn't need to go to the Himalayas and meditate for 20 years in order to connect to presence.
mm.
Presence can be found without even the need of having to sit down and meditate for 3 hours. And in this way, like it really reminds me how we can connect to presence just by bringing awareness of what's happening in the body.
Yeah, or what's happening in the senses, like the colors and lights and sounds, or noticing the mind. To me, these are like the three fields of awareness, where in any given moment, I can put my attention on what's happening inside my body, what's happening in my surroundings, in my senses, what's happening in my mind.
And yeah, and you mentioned already that we did a training together this past week. Very, yeah, I really loved the experience, and I probably will share more on a personal level another time. But I'm curious if you want to speak a bit about what the
What
fuck
did we
did we
do?
do last
Yeah,
week?
yeah. Yeah, I can try. It's a big question, and I would say that like immediately I want to like acknowledge that my area of like skill and experience and passion is is more like teaching groups and facilitating groups, and this thing of like podcast or interview or is not so it's not something I'm experiencing. So I have a bit this in the background, this stress of like I want to explain well and I want this to be good, and just by acknowledging that, I hope it helps me a little bit relax. And yeah, I just want to be here because I like chatting with you. Yeah.
Hmm. And I actually want to
Yeah.
react to that. It is something that I have experienced like incredible
Mm,
by naming what maybe I could perceive as a discomfort or an
mm,
insecurity,
mm,
and sometimes naming those things
mm.
instead of keeping it inside, like naming this discomfort about the
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Sometimes it really helps to
Mm, mm,
relax instead of keeping it inside.
mm.
And I wonder if you have any reflection or reaction to that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I have a bit the sense that everything that goes unsaid stays a bit stuck unless I find some other way to sort of intentionally digest or release these kind of insecurities, worries. To me, the simplest thing is like to speak out loud what's going on inside, and that gives it the chance to change.
Yeah, what it reminds
Yeah.
me is that for many years, and something I speak here often as well, um, I lived a life where I sort of was putting a mask
Mm,
and I was trying to hide my insecurities.
mm,
Many times, especially with women
mm,
or in my relations, I would feel insecure of
mm,
saying my insecurities.
yeah,
Like, I'm supposed to be strong, I'm supposed to be a man, and don't share those things.
yeah,
And what I realized over the years is that I wasn't being truly myself,
yeah,
because there was a part of me that I wasn't really showing in
yeah,
my relation, those parts that I felt insecure about.
yeah.
And
And my experience is that if there's something you're withholding, some kind of insecurity, at least in my experience, often people can kind of sense it anyway, but without the direct data of exactly what it is, it leads the mind to do a lot of guessing. So if I'm a bit nervous talking to you and I don't acknowledge that I'm a bit nervous, then your body, your intuition can pick it up. But since it's not clear that it's nervousness or what it's about, then I imagine that it can often be perceived like a bit wrong. Like maybe it's a bit aggression, or maybe it's a bit threat, or maybe it's a bit competitiveness, or like there's something you pick up, and it's if it's not sure exactly what it is, I imagine that's what creates disconnect between people a lot.
yeah, and I perceive this in a way of like one step of one layer of sharing our truths,
Mm,
which we will talk a bit more about,
mhm.
because the training that we did, you called it truth training,
Yeah.
and the importance of really connecting to one's truth and really being able to express it.
And I want to say that to me, what's even more important than talking about truth training is living it. And so when you
Mm.
say what's going on in you in this moment, or if I say what I'm withholding in the background, to me, that's even more of a, even for the podcast, that's more of a demonstration or a taste of truth training
Mm.
and my passions rather than just explaining it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I love it. That's why I
Mm,
really wanted to start talking about the body and talking
mhm.
about these things,
Yeah,
because this is
yeah,
what we have been doing in these days.
yeah,
And it has really created an impact in my life. Giving just a brief thing on like what did we do last week?
yeah,
What did we
yeah.
go into? What was that journey?
Yeah, it's a big question. Truth training was this course that we did, yeah, at Angsbacher here last week. And for me, the intention or the purpose was for all of us, like in this huge group, to discover the depth of connection and the healing that happens when we start. A is like being more honest and saying the things that we're withholding vulnerably, but also when we give space to really feel the emotions that are attached with that, whether that's grief, pain, anger, sadness, or love, attraction, all of these things. So to me, by speaking more the truth, by feeling the emotions that come with it, by creating a bit of a map of some communication skills or tools, the idea was to connect really deeply and to sort of find the magic on the other side of the discomfort of opening up. This is a bit the mission. And more concretely, how did we do it? Yeah, I hosted a series of, as you remember, a series of games, exercises, dynamics, and we also spent a lot of time in big circle or in smaller circles, sharing truths of our own that are maybe rarely spoken, especially facing the topic which is very taboo in society and avoided of anger and resentment. For
Yeah.
me, there's a lot of liberation from making dedicated spaces where it's really welcome and safe to express anger.
Yeah, anger. What an emotion that
Yeah.
I really
Mm,
agree with
mm,
what you say about being taboo. Anger can be a scary emotion to be expressed and to be felt if
yeah.
we express it in the way of like screaming or
Mhm,
something like that, right?
mhm,
And when we don't know how to sit with it, and especially when it's
mm,
with another person, yeah, if we don't create a safe a container on
mm,
like really expressing that, then in a way we can also suppress it, or indirectly it comes out in hurtful ways,
yeah,
more hurtful than actually addressing it,
yeah,
really. So yeah, I wonder. if you want to speak a little bit more about anger and
Mhm.
how can we
Mhm.
deal with anger.
Yeah. Well, the first thing I want to say, a bit related to what you just said, is that to me, I'm not so scared of anger. I'm more scared of suppressed anger, or what I would call cold anger. Like when someone has some pain, resentment, judgment that's building up in the background. And then if it's not dealt with or directly expressed, then my experience is that's what leads to violence, or that's what leads to cold disconnect. Suddenly people leave your life, or suddenly they will start trying to manipulate the structures that you're living in, whether it's a community or a company, in their best interests and your worst interests. And to me, this is like what fucks the world up in a way, is like indirectly expressed anger. So my wish is that we can get more and more comfortable with facing it directly, even if that means a bit of shouting or directness or screaming. And that's somehow like an energy release. I've found it a very healing experience, both receiving people's anger and expressing my own anger. And that requires a cultural shift as well as a personal shift.
Mm,
Like the personal shift is maybe knowing how to express anger in a more, I don't know, safe or like connecting way, staying with it. But the cultural shift is also that people don't sort of freak out of like, oh, this is so not okay, but instead, okay, there's some intense emotions here.
mm,
Yeah. And so that's why this course was intended to have both sort of the focus on personal transformation and the focus on creating a new culture,
mm.
which I've seen is starting to happen a bit, where people are wanting to sit together in circles and speak the truths that they maybe have been withholding. Yeah.
Yeah, and something really impactful for me is just sitting in front of someone and saying, I resent you for
Mm, mm,
interrupting me. As
mm,
simple as that, right?
mm,
And
yeah,
experimenting with that.
yeah,
And even saying it like more loud and
yeah,
actually screaming to the other person,
yeah,
not with the intention of hurting the other person,
yeah,
but actually with the intention of, okay, I'm saying this, that it's
yeah,
alive,
yeah,
and then bringing it back to the
yeah,
senses,
yeah,
bringing it back to the body, bringing it back to my needs. So
yeah,
instead of saying, I resent you, you suck, I hate
yeah,
you, la la la,
because you
it's
are
like,
this, you are that. It's,
yeah,
how is this about me?
exactly. And I think like that's the most beautiful, well, one of the most beautiful
Yeah,
parts
yeah,
is that instead of creating this separation, always staying connected
yeah,
here. Okay, I resent you. Well, I don't really resent you right now, but if
mm-hmm,
I were to say I resent you,
mm,
and my need is expression, my need
mm,
is to be heard, my
mm,
need is to
yeah,
be understood,
yeah,
and how that really shifts
yeah,
the expression of anger towards one another.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And that's what I like how you describe it, that it's both for me, both like a somatic experience of connecting more deeply to my own emotional body, my own sensations, as well as a relational experience of like requesting the other person's presence, the other person's listening to help me heal, to help me grow as a person. And there's something a bit magical in my experience about expressing things directly in this way, maybe even with a bit of volume or eye contact or intensity. To me, this, even if the other person doesn't give a shit about what I'm saying, even if they listen and they don't take it in, it's somehow, it's like it's honoring myself. And for so many people in the world who've spent years, lifetimes suppressing, 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 that speaking up with a bit of intensity suddenly feels like, even if I don't matter to the other person, I matter to me. Like I'm honoring my needs, my desire to speak up. And I find that incredibly transformational for people.
Yeah, at least what I experienced, I didn't really scream to someone directly, but I did
Sure.
scream to the space.
Yeah.
And my perception is that in the beginning it was scary for me
Mm.
because I haven't really done that so much
Okay.
or been
Yeah.
so raw and honest.
Mm.
And the first few seconds is like, oh, I did something wrong, or
Mm.
like what happened, right?
Mm.
But I also saw this in other people, which is that after the release in a few seconds,
Mm.
there was space for
Yeah.
actually connection. So, but the beginning and the expression, the rawness, it can be like,
Yeah.
but then it
Yeah. Yeah.
opened up the space, and I did see so much in other
Mm.
people
Mm.
of like after expressing deep
Yeah.
deep emotion,
Sudden
then there was
connection.
space
Yeah.
for
Exactly.
like, wow, I totally feel you,
Yeah.
wow, I can connect with
Yeah.
you.
And in my experience, often the resentment is like a little blockage or a little barrier that prevents me from accessing all the ocean of like love and compassion that there's there. And often people will try to spiritual bypass and say, oh, we should be compassionate, we should be loving, we should be understanding or empathic. And it's not really there. So imagine I'm angry with you and my inner coach or someone outside is saying, yeah, just be compassionate towards him, that will heal it. And I try and try to understand you. But there's this like barrier that's like, first, I'm angry. Then after that, maybe there's compassion. And if I keep trying to jump over the initial barrier and have love for my mum or my dad when really first I'm angry, then it just somehow never clicks. It doesn't feel right. And my experience is as soon as I can fully feel, like viscerally in my body, and release this kind of anger or resentment, then suddenly I have so much love for my parents and so much love for the person in front of me. So suddenly it's easy. It's
Yeah.
like this is why empathy is something that I do teach people as like a skill, but it's also something so natural to us humans when we feel like able to express ourselves.
Yeah, what I'm thinking now is that,
Mhm.
we come from a training. You have been practicing this for a long time.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking of someone who hasn't really done these
So,
things,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or who hasn't never really expressed their anger, or they
Mhm.
expressed it in a, like unconscious way. They just exploded and they had their anger
Mhm.
with their partner, with their parents, I believe, like, or close friends. Like, the closer people are,
Mhm.
the more we tend to build on these emotions.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it comes anything to you, or you get inspired to share something on, like, yeah, thinking about someone that doesn't have really
Mhm.
experience in these things.
Mhm.
What are the benefits, or how they can start
Mhm.
little by little to connect and allow this part of their emotions,
Yeah.
and also ask for another person if they're open to receive this kind of interaction.
Yeah. 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 When I think about like someone who's never experienced any of this, the first two things that come to mind that I would recommend. One is taking like regular time, whether it's once a week or something like that, a dedicated hour or half an hour or even whatever, 20 minutes with a partner, with a loved one, with a friend, as a way to say, this time is for all the things we're scared to tell each other. Because those are the things that will slip over the course of your weeks, months, years of life and go a little bit unnoticed, and they'll build up until there's a pile of secrets or one really big secret or one big withheld emotion. And to me, that's what will kill the friendship or kill the relationship or whatever. And so, yeah, I would recommend or I would encourage everyone to put aside like dedicated time for scary honesty or vulnerable honesty. Like, okay, we sit down. What are the things you're scared to tell me? And we do our best to stick with it. Not that you tell me and I run away, but you tell me and I stay. And I hear them and I give my reaction, even if I'm angry for you saying it. Maybe you're falling in love with someone else, or maybe you're, I don't know, not enjoying the way I slurp my food or something like this. And you tell me, and then I have my reaction, and I tell you my reaction, and we stay with it until we reach some kind of settle. And to me, that would be key. That's like one of my top tips for any healthy relation. And then the second thing that comes to mind is like for someone who's not new to any of this would be to also have a regular practice, whether that's even daily, perhaps like a meditation practice, or to just sit opposite someone, whether it's a friend or loved one or family member, look them in the eyes, and for a few minutes each, just meditate out loud to say what you notice happening inside the thoughts, whatever thought, unfiltered thoughts coming out, what's happening inside the sensations or emotions of the body, and what noticing in the senses. And to me, if I do that regularly, it sort of strengthens the muscle. It's like going to the gym. It strengthens the muscle to be able to stay in contact with another person with discomfort. Because it's awkward, like staring into someone's eyes while saying, I notice dry mouth. I notice tightness in my chest. I notice I'm licking my lips. I notice my spine is a little uncomfortable. There's some kind of gradually building up, there's some kind of awkwardness that happens or discomfort. And to stay with that is a life skill for me.
Mm.
That then comes across later. The fruits of that is like confidence, is like empowerment, is like clarity, both in like conflicts, or also just in business meeting or chatting to that person you're attracted to in the cafe or whatever, like to to be able to stay present while in connection, to me that's like the greatest skill on earth.
Yeah, and what
Yeah.
came to me when you were saying it about confidence, right? Like how important it is how to be confident and this and that.
Yeah.
And I found it, yes, such a powerful way that being confident is owning your truth,
Yeah.
owning your sensations in your body, just owning it, not really trying to find a solution or explaining it, but, walking into the business meeting and owning I feel nervous, or
Yeah.
working in the
Yeah.
podcast and doing that, or
Yeah.
with a partner, it's like, hey, I feel insecure about this, or I feel
Yeah.
angry about this.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's something there about the confidence that it just feels so nice and easy
Yeah.
when we are able to actually own all the parts of ourselves
Yeah.
and really being them. It's like, yes, this is me right now.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that this is me forever.
Yeah.
This is me in the past. This is me in the future. It's like right now, yeah, I feel my belly. I feel this. I have a judgment. I have whatever.
One of my inspirations from Radical Honesty, he said, how do you know when you've spoken the truth? It changes.
What
So
changes?
the truth, as in what he meant is that, like you said, owning in the present moment, to me, the truth of what I want to say is very much, I think, in the present moment. It's like right now I have this judgment. 5 minutes later, I might not anymore. And somehow the paradox of it a bit is that I might carry a certain judgment of someone for weeks, months, years, and as soon as I might acknowledge it, own it, like confess it, then suddenly maybe it changes. So this is a bit of a game of life that I see as like, if I speak the truth, it changes.
Something that it just reminded me, it's about actually about expressing your attraction to someone. Here in the place that we're right now, we're in a community and there's a lot of people and festivals and events, and when you're single there is a lot of attraction when you're not single as well, but there's more of like playful connection and all of this. And something that I have learned deeply in this experience here is that many times I may feel attracted to someone and I may be creating a story, but then when I express the attraction, suddenly it's not there anymore.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
the truth changes in a
yeah,
way.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and you just spoke about radical honesty,
yeah.
and maybe some people heard of it, maybe some others not. I personally have read the book, I think twice, and some years ago, I don't remember so much about it, and I have my understanding of it, but it felt so nice to hear about this concept and movement, radical honesty, and just without going so deep and reading the book or anything like that, the simple thing about being honest,
Yeah,
how powerful that is
yeah,
to be
yeah.
honest in your life. So I wonder if you, want to tell me a little bit about what is this radical honesty?
In essence, it's like the idea that most of the human suffering comes from going round and round in the mind without finding out what I want to know or expressing what I need to say. Like withheld thoughts or withheld feelings, withheld emotions. Everything withheld keeps us stuck in some kind of prison, trying to hold up a mask, trying to seem how I want to seem, and trying to sort of like suss out other people. And as soon as I start dropping that mask and just saying what's going on inside, then there's way less living in the mind. There's just some kind of like simplification happens. To me, it's almost a little bit like becoming more like a child. Child says, "No, I don't want that. No, I don't like that. Oh yeah, I want to do this. Hey, can you hug me? Hey, can I?" Just like living out loud. And to me, there's a kind of like quality of surrender when living like that, of like showing my cards in a poker game. It's like, this is me.
Mm.
There's not all of the guessing and fighting and games. To me, that's a kind of liberation from the prison of the mind. I think that's the intention behind radical honesty. And there's a lot more to it with certain tools or certain principles. To me, it's as simple as that. It's like we create a prison in the mind and you get out by speaking the truth.
Yeah, and what came to me now is that I see in a way like there are probably many layers, but I do see two layers of speaking the truth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I see in these sort of containers and spaces where it's like, just speak whatever is alive, you know, like really be connected to yourself, to your thoughts and
Yeah.
whatever, and
Yeah.
really feel free to fully speak yourself.
Yeah.
And another layer where I see more of like in society in a way,
Mhm.
or, you know, in regular society where people are not so attuned to
Mhm.
speaking or hearing someone's truth.
Mm.
And there's something in me of like some doubt on like,
Yeah.
can one actually be fully
Fully
honest
truthful. Yeah.
always? Or is it also interesting to, you know, sense
Mm.
when it's okay that I am fully myself, when is it not,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
something like that?
My answer to that, I mean, it's an ongoing exploration for everyone's life. But for me, my answer would be I want to like choose to speak the truth, choose to express everything when it's in service of connection. When I
Mm.
can see that that it's potentially gonna nourish me or the other person to connect more. And if it's, if there's so many little encounters in the day where I don't have the time or energy to fully express what I'm hiding, and maybe then creates a longer conversation, then I want to have self-compassion. I don't make it a have to, a should, that I should or have to every moment be fully honest. I don't want to put that kind of pressure on myself. I want to see, what is it serving? Is it serving the connection right now? That's kind of part of my answer. And the other part I want to acknowledge is that it also depends on the level of trust. When I really have a close and trusting relationship with someone, like the more I get to know someone, the more likely I'm wanting to bring all different parts of myself and maybe even feel safe to voice more of my judgments, which can then transform. And maybe I no longer have that judgment as soon as I've said it. However, if it's someone that I don't feel so much trust in the ability to stick with it and stay with it, even if things get uncomfortable with judgments and blame, then I'm more likely to want to speak my truth, but in a maybe slightly more easy to digest way, which is like being very factual, not so much judgmental or opinions of the mind, but more factual, more emotional, more clear with what I want, and just making requests. To me, that's like I make this kind of division of honesty that's judgmental and honesty that's very factual, emotional, and asking.
Yeah, and what came to me now, it's like these four sort of or five boxes
Mm-hmm.
that we learn about in the
Mm-hmm.
course, you know, and of course they have so much depth
Yeah.
and understanding. But I was wondering if you want to, yeah, to sort of tell me or remind me,
Yeah.
or tell someone who hasn't heard of this, you know,
Yeah.
because we have been
Yeah.
speaking about, all right, so connect to your truth, connect to your body. Now it's time to speak. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
anger. You sit with your partner, you say this thing, right? But we also have been speaking about connection and also self
Yeah.
connection.
Yeah. Good
So
point.
what are these boxes, and how
Yeah.
do we actually express
Yeah.
these things?
Yeah. So what I would say is that one kind of honesty, like I said, is expressing judgments, thoughts, and opinions. That's like the top box. That's one option. Expressing my opinion, judgment, story, thoughts. And to me, that's less likely to be connecting. So that's why I said I like to express that when I have a lot of safety and trust with someone. It's more relaxing, maybe, to just say my thoughts. But I don't believe that's so connecting. And also, it's not so factually real. Judgments just come and go, they change any moment, and they're subjective. I might meet someone and say, he's really nice. And you might meet the person and say, he's an asshole.
Mhm.
And who's right? It's subjective. So I like to then translate for a more connecting reality. I like to translate that top box of judgments
The box
into
in the head.
the box in the head, exactly, into these four kind of more factual or more truthful versions of honesty. And any judgment can be translated into that. So we take the example, the judgment of he's selfish. I met this guy. Yeah, he's so selfish. Okay, that might be honest as a thought, but it's just a thought. How can I translate that? So box number one of more useful truth is to be factual about observations. What would a camera see? A camera doesn't see whether someone's selfish or not. It sees what they do or say. So that might be that he took food before everyone else. Okay, that's factual at least. And everyone can agree to that. That creates some kind of shared reality. It lessens the level of dispute. If I say he's selfish, someone says, no, he's not. He's actually really kind. You don't know. But if I say he took food before everyone else, okay, yeah, I saw that too. Fact. The other second box of the more useful truth is feelings. is emotions. And when I saw him take food before everyone else, I felt a bit annoyed or a bit shocked. To me, again, that's something that's not arguable. It's just what happened inside of me. It's a bit more vulnerable, but also a bit more empowering because I stay connected to my emotions rather than going up into the head, judging him as selfish. So I could say the fact of what happened, I could say the emotional state it stirred up in me. And the other two at the bottom are needs and requests. Instead of me saying he's selfish, what do I actually want? Is it that I have a need for balance or care, or a need for to be considered, or some need for, I don't know, fairness within the group? And then from that, do I want to ask for something? Because many people might have noticed we spend our lives complaining without having clear, what the fuck do I actually want? So instead of saying he's selfish and leaving it at that, how about I take my initiative to change the world and ask for what I want? So I could say, yeah, I have a need for consideration, or I have a need for everyone to get food in the queue, or something like this. Yeah, would you be willing to wait until the bell rings, or check that everyone else has enough, or whatever? So these four facts, feelings, needs, and requests are like four more useful versions of truthfulness, which take courage and honesty, rather than the kind of honesty that's up in the head. He's selfish. Fuck him. Doesn't really help anyone.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very inspiring for me. Of course, we did a lot in the course, but yeah, and something that just came up like right away before I forget. It's like, okay, someone that actually resonates with what we have been talking about.
Mm.
How can one get initiated in a way or inspired of like, yeah, I want to live in truth. I want to be honest. I want to learn how to express my anger, how to express uncomfortable judgments or whatever. Where can one start with this?
Yeah, there's lots of full courses, like you said, all around the world. But before that, just to get a taste, I would just say to research, or like look into a little bit radical honesty and nonviolent communication. To me, both of these, whilst they on the surface look so different, people say, oh, radical honesty is really harsh and rude and direct. Oh, nonviolent communication is very, they judge it as manipulative or psychoanalytical. In my experience, if you give each a bit of time, you dive in with curiosity, you'll find they're very similar. They both have the same fundamental principles, like this map I described of judgments that we can translate into, facts, feelings, needs, requests. To me, this map is from nonviolent communication, but it's also very parallel to what they try in radical honesty. So yeah, my recommendation would be research radical honesty, nonviolent communication. There's loads of YouTube videos, audio talks, podcasts, read the book. Radical Honesty is one book, Nonviolent Communication is another book.
Mm-hmm.
Give them a taste. What matches more for you? For me, they both match, but for some people, they're more drawn to one or more drawn to the other. Either way, they'll both inspire you to speak up, be more clear, deal with the uncomfortable conflicts. And it's not easy to do it alone. This is the thing. Just like with Buddhism, they have the triple gem, the three things that you take support from: the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, which is like the inspiration, teachings, and the community of support. And I see the same with most things in life. If you try to start living differently against the culture that's sort of swimming upstream, like with radical honesty or nonviolent communication, truth training, as I offer it, you're going to need some inspiration, which might be me or some other figure who's taken it a bit further. You're going to need some key teachings and principles. And you're also going to need a community of practice, like a group of friends, maybe, who you sit down and say, let's be way more honest together. Let's tell each other our opinions, all the things we hide, all our vulnerabilities. And by creating some kind of community, then we can keep reminding it. Because you're only really as free as your most recent kind of liberation. It's very easy to do one big honesty course and then just go back into life. You got to keep reawakening with it again and again and again. And that you need friends to call out my bullshit, to point out when they say, I don't think you're telling the truth. I think you're just going the comfortable option, the easy option. And that, yeah, I need people to do that. Otherwise, I get lost in my own mind again.
Yeah, and also an actual curiosity that I wanted to ask in the course and I forgot
Mm-hmm.
to ask. It's a really beautiful concept, and at the same time, when we express our truth, when I express my truth, I'm already reacting to some body stimuli and it creates some sensations inside of me. And when I hear someone else's truth, like let's say a very tough one, or it can be a tough one, which is rejection and
Mm-hmm.
fear of rejection, right? We were talking about attraction. It's like, I'm attracted to you. And then that person says, thank you, I am not. And they reject you or something like that, right? And one needs to stay with that feeling inside and process that, right? And that happens in many interactions of life, but especially if you are starting to express your truth. And something that I saw that it can happen also when expressing truth is creating containers where you actually are allowing the reaction. So I'm not sure if you understand more or less where I'm going from,
Yeah.
right? But like this thing of like reacting right away or like holding yourself before you react.
It sounds like you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like you're wondering my take on how much to be spontaneous with your emotional reaction or what comes up, and how much to pause, let things settle, and then come from a more clear place. Is that what
Yes.
you're
Yeah.
wondering?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say that to me, that's where the somatic part of it comes in, of like being with the body sensations. Because when people say a trigger, I don't use that word so much, but I guess it's referring to an emotion that comes up quite suddenly, unexpectedly, when based on something someone says. And to me, emotions like are they don't last that long unless we resist them. And to me, the idea of like, oh, I'm triggered, I need to go away for a long time and come back later might be helpful, but also it's not the only way. If I can, in the moment, when something comes up in me, some anger, some, whoa, I don't know what's going on in me right now, but just when you said that, I feel disorientated. If I can just stay with that for 30 seconds, a minute, a couple of minutes max, it doesn't take long before something arises, maybe some tears, maybe some sweating, some anger passes away. Then it's much easier to connect after that. So yes, in some situations, if it's not easy to sort of pause in the moment, then yeah, maybe I want to go away, seek some self empathy or some empathy from a friend or something, come back with a more level headed response. But yeah, it's not the only way. And I like to train myself and train others in workshops to be able to deal with these intense emotions in the moment of interaction.
Yeah, I feel safe when I
Yeah.
hear that because
Yeah.
that was the missing link that I was not having, which is the regulation in a way. So when I'm in a trigger, or for example, I have been having a bit of a trigger with the person I'm relating with in these
Mhm.
past few days, right? And I noticed that if we're texting or we're in a call and I don't wait to give an answer, I'm already like giving an answer and then she gives an answer and I give an answer.
Yeah.
And without being so maybe hurtful or anything like that, but
Yeah.
then I'm not taking that space
Yeah.
to actually regulate myself, right? But
Mm.
instead of like reacting and reacting and reacting, and the thing is just so much that then it gets to a point, it's like, okay, let's take a break, let's go for a walk,
Mhm.
whatever, come back to ourselves, right? But having this ability of like, oh, I notice that I'm not waiting to give you an answer. I notice that I'm eager to respond,
Yeah.
that I want to defend myself. Okay, how is my body
Yeah.
feeling?
Yeah.
Right? And going back to the body. And maybe that's what I understand, what I perceive is one way of actually regulating oneself without the need of going 1 week without no contact so I can regulate
Exactly,
myself in a way.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes practice, of course. Yeah, yeah. And I would also say, just to add on that note, is that when we're doing this like ping pong thing of before reacting, like, immediately, like I'm responding quickly, reacting, often that's actually coming from the head more. I don't see the emotions as, unless I go straight up into the mind and think, well, what is this person doing wrong? I can't believe you said that. Da, da, da. Actually, the emotional state, even if it's a bit reactionary, it doesn't create so much of this ping pong. It's just like, whoa, pain. Whoa, tension in my chest. Whoa, some need for connection. Like the part that's below the thought level, like I said on this map, even if that's given reactionary and fast, I don't think that creates this ping pong dynamic so much. I think that's a bit more how animals are, like two lions interacting. It's not like when one gets angry, the other says, let me just regulate my nervous system. Let me just breathe for 10 seconds. It's like, no, there's the emotional reaction straight back. And I think that's natural and that's okay. I think that's quite normal.
Mm.
It's only, to me, it gets a problem when we up in the mind judging and blaming and shaming and guilt. That's where things go round and round and round and get stuck. In the body reaction, even if it's quite spontaneous. Sometimes me and my girlfriend, she gets angry with me and I immediately feel the anger back. And it's like a moment of both and then release. And it's beautiful. Sometimes there's no words needed. There's just a feeling of anger, or sometimes there's some tears in her and some tears come in me. There's some kind of emotional reaction and it passes. If it got up into the head, what's wrong? What's going on? Why do you do that? That's when the spirals happen.
Yeah, I was in my mind, I am really excited. And in my mind, I was like, yes, this is the moment. I love this one
Mm-hmm.
because I am very passionate about the ego. I'm
Mm-hmm.
very passionate about the study of the ego. And
Mm-hmm.
when I hear, about this, about the thoughts and the story in the mind, and when we are so much and believing the stories in the mind, right? Like so disconnected from presence,
Yeah.
and how much the ego as an entity in itself I perceive is, at least in myself and probably in everyone's self, the importance of the ego to have attention, the importance of the ego to be right.
Mm-hmm.
The stories that we create in our minds, believing the stories, following the stories. And I see in consciousness and spirituality, yeah, a lot of addressing of that. It's like, can you be aware of your thoughts? And can you also be aware that you're more than that?
Yeah.
There's presence behind it.
Yeah.
So in, something that I just want, a topic that I want to open up, it's also, this thing about the ego and this thing about spirituality and consciousness.
Yeah.
And how do you see this playing in all these dynamics?
Yeah. What comes to me, there's a lot to it. It's a big topic. But what comes to me immediately is like that I see all the stories of the mind, all the thoughts, opinions that are created continually, moment by moment, like labeling, judging everything with the mind. I see it as like a bullshit machine. The mind is like somehow maybe we were born into this world with a mind to have this beautiful ability to discern things, to decide things, to study, to separate out existence into labels. Maybe that's a beautiful intention, but I think it's too late. Like we've like lost that. We've clogged up the mind with so much like opinions, judgments, right and wrong, duty, obligation, that actually, to me, I can't trust anything my mind says really. And the same goes for everyone else. I don't really trust people's thoughts. I see it all as a bit of bullshit. And it's like the mind comes to me with like, oh, I've got this great idea or this great new plan or this really clear opinion of this person. And then moments later, they behave a little differently. Opinion's totally different. Or I have this great idea for a project. Suddenly situation changes. Totally different idea. The mind to me is like makes up everything. This is what maybe you're referring to as the ego.
Yeah,
Sense
yeah,
of
the
like
ego, yeah.
mind self that's like, I have such importance. I have such importance. Like, the experience in meditation sometimes, like an idea comes that you spent hours working on the meditation, you finish the meditation and you were just thinking for an hour and then idea doesn't seem important anymore. It was a waste of an hour. So to me, the distinction I want to make is like that is all the bullshit machine that's been given to me from my education system, from my parents, from my culture. What's been given to me from nature, from God, you could say, is my body, is my emotions, is my human needs. To me, that is like beyond the ego, beyond the mind. And that's why, to me, it's a practice. All this truth training that I'm running is a practice of moving away from the ego mind towards the body, the emotions, the needs. To me, that's like the most spiritual pursuit I could possibly think of. I know the words of Muji, this spiritual teacher, says, from the dark corners of my mind, I have plucked from the dark corners of my mind, I have plucked the thorns of many judgments, like he's removing the judgments of the mind. And I'm like, that's a beautiful idea, but how to do it? To me, this is why truth training and these kind of communication skills from radical honesty and nonviolent communication help me to like not just try to cut off the mind or cut off the ego, because some kind of rejection doesn't work in my experience, which is maybe a lot of old spirituality is like denounce the mind, just be pure presence, spiritual bypass. And to me, sure, maybe that's beautiful if I can be in touch with my heart, my emotions. But when I'm in the mind, how can I make that jump? And to me, that's why I find it so important to separate out behind the judgments what's in there. What am I feeling? What am I needing? What am I factually observing? What am I requesting? To me, this is why I say honesty or truth for me is a spiritual practice. It's not just a communication, relational, psychology practice. By me and you sitting opposite each other and noticing what we feel, asking for what we want, and saying what we're scared to say, to me, that's gently washing away the mind and the ego dissolving in a way or translating. It's like befriending this like ego enemy.
It is beautiful to, in a way, go into presence, consciousness, all of that, and all of that is beautiful. And at the same time, we still have the ego, we
Yeah,
still have the mind, we
yeah,
still have the
exactly.
thoughts, and how to relate to our own thoughts. It's one of the greatest quests I believe there are in life.
Mm-hmm.
How many bad things one can experience in life that just comes from their own mind. I'm curious to hear your reflection also on that bullshit machine, but just towards the internal,
Mm-hmm.
that inner critic,
Yeah,
that self judgment, right? Like, not so much, I'm angry at you because you did that, but
yeah. What's
I'm
wrong
not
with me?
having,
Yeah,
yeah, what's wrong with me? I'm not having the life that I want, and those kind of things. How
mhm,
to relate with the inner thoughts that we have in our
yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah. So my concern is that what happens is that we have these nature-given emotions which are beautiful and meant to like guide us towards our needs. So say I have a need for, I don't know, more human connection. And so I start feeling some kind of sadness and some kind of longing to be with people. And ideally in nature, we follow some kind of natural cycle where like the need arises, the emotion arises, we're more likely to make requests or act on our needs, and it completes the need. Say with this example. Where the problem happens, in my opinion, is like if the thoughts interfere with this pattern because we've been programmed by society, by school, I start feeling a bit lonely because I have a longing for connection. That would be natural. But then as soon as I start thinking, oh shit, I shouldn't be feeling lonely, or I've been judged as a child, like, oh yeah, no, you don't get lonely, just, be fine on your own, be independent. Soon as these thoughts come in and judge, like start almost like attacking my own authentic experience, then this kind of you start feeling even heavier. It's like, oh, then not only do I feel lonely, I also feel a bit depressed from judging myself. Oh, what's wrong with me? And then there's even more need for connection. And it creates these kind of downward spirals, which I've experienced from often doing sort of one-to-one sessions or support sessions with people with like depression, is that it's kind of these, it's like cognitively arrested alternatives, meaning like we can no longer see opportunities because the mind is just judging the state as what's wrong with me. Oh, I'm not fixing myself. I need to do something differently. Oh, I'm broken. Oh, no one's like me. No one gets me. And as these thoughts come in, then I'm less and less likely to actually meet the original need, which the original need was maybe for connection or for friendship or for just empathy, being understood. And that's the sad thing I think a bit about like this judgment mind culture that we're raised in.
Mm.
So to me, the way out is to like interrupt the cycle, to cut the pattern by catching these judgments of like, what's wrong with me? By noticing it first, being aware of it, maybe even speaking it out, maybe even writing it out, and then starting to translate these judgments into feelings and needs. Like, okay, I'm feeling depressed because I have some need for support. Suddenly it doesn't go round and round anymore. It goes towards something more actionable. Yeah, easier said than done.
Of course, of
Yeah.
course, of course. I mean, in a way, like, this world of self-development or inner
Mhm.
work, they say that it's a whole lifetime.
Yeah.
It's a whole
Yeah.
lifetime. Once you're in it, it's not like you're doing it for 2 years, you're fixed, it's
Yeah.
done. It's
Exactly. Yeah.
always deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And something that came to me when I was hearing you, it's also about acceptance,
Mhm.
which is like, yeah, when I think also about like my inner judgments and my inner thoughts, right?
Mhm.
And of
Mm.
course, wish I didn't have them.
Mhm.
May my life will be easier if
Mhm.
I didn't have my inner thoughts and inner
Mm.
judgments, and
Mm.
I'm not good enough because of this, or I'm scrolling too much on the phone, I'm not going to the gym, or like,
Mm.
whatever it is. But to me, something that I found a lot of peace in is actually, instead of trying to change the
Mm.
thoughts or suppressing or wishing they were not there, actually accepting. It's like, but accepting from an observer mentality, right?
Mm.
Without identifying with the thought and just getting out of the thought and observing the thought. It's like,
Mm.
I have a thought that I'm judging myself for not being good enough, or I'm
Mm.
judging myself for not going to work out today when I
Yeah.
could, or not doing whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I liked your example with like, so say the example of, oh, I'm scrolling on the phone and I start judging myself. Oh, I'm lazy. I go on my phone too much. What's wrong with me? I haven't got my life together. Da, da, da. That can go around. To me, the key, like you're saying, is to notice that. Oh, look what's happening. I'm judging myself for going on the phone. And then to see like to bring some curiosity towards it. Like what's going on inside? Like what need is it meeting for me to judge myself as lazy? I guess it's because I really need like exercise, health. I really value like vitality and being awake and alive in the world. And as soon as I start connecting to that, it's no longer like heavy judgment or, oh, I'm lazy, or I'm fucked up, what's wrong with me? It's like, ah, yeah, I'm not acting in alignment with these values of aliveness, health. And then the other side is to look at what's being judged, like, oh, the fact that I'm going on my phone so much, and get curious about that too. Not that it's right or wrong, but see, I wonder why. Why am I spending so much time on the phone? Is it because I'm really needing rest? Because I'm having
Exactly.
such a
Exactly.
full-on life, and or because I'm a bit lonely and I'm needing some kind of comfort and connection? Like, what need? Because every human action is trying to serve needs. Maybe not very well, but
Hmm.
every human action is trying to serve needs. So if I'm scrolling on the phone for hours, which I had this in the past where I was noting myself going a lot on the phone, and I noticed, yeah, it's because I'm really trying to rest, and I have a hard time resting when I'm busy doing many things. The phone's like a nice way to zone out and rest. Soon as I noticed that, I decided to find other ways to rest.
Hmm.
Now I don't go on my phone so much. Like rather than judging the behavior, understanding it. To me, that's the key with self judgment.
Okay, random curiosity that popped into my mind is that your WhatsApp picture,
Yeah,
you have a picture with Muji.
yeah,
Muji is, yeah, in my opinion, one of the great spiritual teachers that
yeah,
are out there.
yeah,
And I also know that, or from reading your website, that you also have some sort of connection with spirituality
mhm,
in Japan and your journey and all that. So I'm just curious to
yeah.
hear a bit about, like, how do you know Muji?
Sure.
What's that about?
Yeah, sure. So long story short,
Yeah.
Muji was a friend of my grandfather. They both went to India together back in the sort of hippie days, and they both were art teachers in London. So they were friends. So when my grandfather died last year, I wanted to go to Muji to tell him. So I made it a personal mission, a personal quest to hitchhike from England all the way to Portugal, and I visited Muji. Normally, no visitors are welcome there. It's a very sort of exclusive sangha of spirituality there around Muji. But because of this story of me wanting to pass on the news that my grandfather had died, they welcomed me to come and spend some time with Muji, and that was really beautiful. Yeah.
Mm. Did you get the opportunity to attend one of the sanghas or?
Yeah, I was there with some of the, what do they call it, contemplation time, like not like a satsang, but the meditations basically.
Mm.
And I was hanging out in Muji community for a few days, which was lovely. Yeah, but it was nice to have one-to-one time with him.
So much knowledge and wisdom, or so much aura and energy I could
Yeah,
imagine he has.
yeah. We didn't talk so much actually, but just exchanging a few words, and um, and it was very touching. There's something very loving and soothing about his presence. Reminded me actually of my grandfather. Yeah.
Wow. And yeah, and now you talked a little bit about the journey and hitchhiking, and
Mhm.
I don't know the whole story, but I
Mhm.
know that you have spent some years, or I heard
Mhm.
you spent some years living an unconventional life in a
Yeah,
way, or
yeah,
how I perceive it, and
yeah.
going from one place to another in very interesting ways
Yeah,
also
yeah,
without money, I heard,
yeah,
and
exactly.
things like that. So I wonder if you want to share a bit about what you did in
Sure.
that time.
Yeah, so background, when I was a child, my grandfather, being this kind of spiritual seeker, would tell me stories of Osho and communities in India and spiritual life. That inspired me. Then when I was 18, I went to live as a monk in a temple in Japan for 1 year. It was not an official like Zen temple. It was very similar, but it was founded by some spiritual teacher who he had had this revelation, this like enlightening experience of deciding to give away all of his money, all of his possessions, and serve humanity humbly in whatever ways needed. So he would like clean people's toilets and sweep the streets and stuff. And I was very inspired by his story, living in his community for 1 year in Japan. So the rest of my adult life, when I came back to live in England and Europe, I had this idea of I want to surrender my life. I want to give away my money and my possessions, live like humbly in the arms of God. And if I need food and shelter or transportation, that will be provided for me, so long as I stay in this state of surrender and that I'm being of service in some way to Earth, to humanity. So this was a bit the mission. And so in the past 4 years, particularly, I've put this into experimentation. And that's meant traveling across Europe with no money and helping people out with whatever sort of jobs wherever I go. Sometimes running training courses like I do here at Angsbacher, but in other places, just working on a farm, doing some gardening, helping someone with a conflict mediation, whatever, doing all sorts of jobs, working in a pizzeria. So just helping people out and traveling for free. This has been an experiment and a mission that I've had.
And
Uh,
also
yeah,
even living and sleeping in other people's places
yeah,
for quite a while, I
yeah,
heard.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when my cousin, who's a YouTube filmmaker,
Mhm.
when he heard about this a few years ago, he said, let's make a documentary about it. And so we crossed the United States of America from New York to LA in 30 days with no money, absolutely zero. Just flew in, started on the beach with nothing, hitchhiked all across the country to get to know people, stayed in strangers' homes, and in the end got to LA and flew back. And he, covered the flights. And this was an amazing experiment. Because to me, it just puts you in direct contact with the rawness of humanity, asking for food, asking for shelter, sleeping in a stranger's home. For me, this is eye-opening and beautiful. And this kind of spiritual mission of gift economy and living without money or living in surrender is not so far for me from all of this communication topic we've been talking about, of radical honesty and nonviolent communication. To me, these go perfectly hand in hand because it's all about if we can connect well as humans, we can also share resources. Like if I can establish trust and be very honest and very empathic towards a car driver, they're more likely to want to take me as a hitchhiker. So these are my two passions in life. You could say trust and truth, and they come together.
Yeah, and in a way, you're still living in the gift economy in a
Yeah,
way, right?
yeah,
Like you shared that you don't really have that much money in your bank,
yeah, yeah,
but that you have been living in this way for a longer time,
yeah,
and that whenever you need something, you just ask for it, but not
exactly.
like I manifest €100 or a plane ticket, but like actually all
Yeah,
the people that you have interacted with and
yeah,
have done courses for free for them
yeah, yeah,
or in one way or another, have a big network and like, hey, I need to fly to Japan. Can anyone help me? And things like this.
yeah, exactly, exactly. Yeah, to me, and that's the communication skills that are required to live in a gift economy. It's the courage to ask and the ability to deal with a no or to negotiate a yes or to establish trust in this way. Yeah, exactly.
One, I would like to hear like from you, like what's the magic
Mhm.
of living a life where you can actually ask for what you want,
Yeah,
maybe you get it, maybe not, expectations or not, or maybe
yeah,
you don't need to be everyone, you a stranger on the bus, hey, can I, all of that,
mhm,
right? But like more of like really feeling grounded. And it's like, huh, I feel like I really want this, or I
mhm,
want to express this, or I want to tell this to this person, or whatever it is. And yeah, if you want to share your experience, or like also my perception is how liberating it
yeah,
is
yeah,
to be able to connect to one's truth, oneself, be present, be grounded, and also follow that.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. To me, I would say as simple as like To ask for what you want is like the magic that changes the world. Not only the world, as in we actually can enact change in the world by asking for things. I know many people who've managed to establish businesses or charities or new relationships just from asking for what they want. But not only that, to me, the other thing is that as soon as I can get more and more skilled and more confident in asking for what I want, more capable of surviving a no, more capable of dealing with a half yes, which maybe initially seems like great, thanks, and then later you pay for it. So that's why I don't want to accept half yeses when I ask for what I want. You know, half yes when someone's like, yeah, fine,
Maybe.
yeah, sure, go on then, I'll help you out. And then I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. If I let someone help me with that energy, I'll pay for it later. So anyway, the more I can deal with these no's and half yeses and yes, deal with the skills of asking for what I want, the more I don't have to face emotional discomfort. To me, most emotional discomfort comes from being like unsatisfied and needing something and not being able to meet the need. If I can ask for what I want, life suddenly becomes way simpler, way more joyful. There's a famous book called The Courage to be Disliked, which is all about philosophy. And he talks about in this book, one of the key things, like if we can speak up and ask for what we want, then there's really no need to get angry, no need to get upset, no need to get worried. We just get skilled at realizing what is it I'm needing right now? I ask for it.
Mm.
Like an example of the waiter, I don't know, spills food or wine on your clothes while waiting your table. Mature soul, the mature being, maybe can have a civilized conversation and ask the waiter to pay for the dry cleaning of the clothes or get a new bottle of wine or whatever. The person who doesn't have the skills to ask for what they want then has to start complaining and has to get all angry and upset because they don't have the skill to just ask. And so we use all these indirect emotional tactics and dramatic tactics to try and get what we need. Same with romantic relationship. Like if I can ask my love, my partner, for what I want, I'm needing some love. Can you give me a massage or could you come for a walk with me? Simple. It actually becomes quite easy. And if I can't ask for what I want, I'm forever thinking, oh, does she love me enough? I haven't bought her flowers. She hasn't kissed me today. Oh, why? What? If I want to have more sex, what can I do to try and get that? Life of manipulation games.
Yes.
So the power is in asking for what you want. And in
Nice.
the Bible, it says, knock and the door will be opened. Ask and you shall receive.
Yeah. And then the other thing for me, it's like, yeah, this thing about
Mm-hmm.
being honest, right? And yeah, and I'm so passionate about relationships as well. And I discovered for myself, how important it is to be your true self
Mm-hmm.
always, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like
Especially right from the beginning. So you don't
exactly.
waste time with masks.
Exactly right. To find out, like, after the love phase, like
Yes,
who the actual
exactly.
person is. I actually have done so much inner work on this because I was totally putting mask and people pleasing and really not being myself. And in this relation that I'm now, since the beginning, I said, look, yes, we like each other a lot, this and
Mhm.
that, but I need to see the triggers. I need you to see my shadows. Like, I am more interested in seeing your shadows and my shadows
Mm,
than the beautiful parts,
mhm,
because those
mm,
are the parts that I have hidden, right?
yeah,
And with this truth and honesty, in a way, it's about that. It's about
mhm,
showing and daring to show our full selves. And then if the other person really like us
yeah,
and they really accept it, it doesn't mean that we're fully accepted and they celebrate all the parties. Like, yeah, there's some parts I don't like,
yeah,
and it's okay,
mm,
but at least I accept it.
yeah,
But this thing of being honest and just truthful to who you are, and also wanting that from the other person, and how much relaxation that brings in a connection.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I would even go as far to say that most people hide their truth for fear of losing the connection. But I think if you hide your truth, you lose yourself, and you eventually also lose the connection.
Very beautiful.
Mhm,
So thank you so much for coming here and sitting down with me and talking about
mhm.
all these cool things. So
Yeah,
so yeah, really thankful for sharing your experience here.
thank you, Ore. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been fun for me to chat with you about this.
All right.
Mm,
So thank you, brother.
thank you so much.